Speaker, for being here, and I want to thank Chairman and Ranking Member for today's hearing and the opportunity to listen, learn, and perform our constitutional mandate to provide oversight for yet another Biden administration department that has routinely engaged in regulatory overreach, failed to comply with congressional statute, and irresponsible use of taxpayers' funds. Record government spending has failed to alleviate unprecedented supply chain and energy crisis as President Biden's Department of Transportation continues to obstruct the efficient transport of energy resources and goods throughout our nation. Under this administration, the Department of Transportation has picked clear favorites, prioritizing urban passenger projects that benefit blue states and cities over critical systems, infrastructure, and maintenance upgrades. When policymakers prioritize equity and environment over competition and economy, American families are left footing the bill. And yet another example of this administration's misguided efforts to stifle competition and keep prices high, this DOT has asserted novel regulatory authority to prevent or delay the merger of JetBlue and Spirit Airlines. Salt Lake City has the sixth most expensive airport to fly in from domestically, with an average fare of $423. The same can be said for many hubs dominated by legacy carriers. My constituents and American people stand for the benefit of free market competition. More flights and more options means lower prices and better service. Mr. Secretary, I am increasingly concerned by your department's actions that result in protecting 80% of market share among the 4 U.S. carriers. Do you believe that maintaining the status quo is a result of your opposition to the JetBlue Spirit merger?
Well, if we want competition, then we have to have fidelity to our watchdog role when it comes to mergers. After all, by definition, a merger means that there will be fewer competitors than there were before the merger. I could not concur with the description of this as a novel regulatory.
Yes? Can I just ask a quick question? You're saying that we have 4 major carriers that represent 80% of the traffic, and adding another one would stop competition?
By definition, a merger doesn't add a company, it removes it.
By definition, a merger also gives the other 4 a competition that they don't have presently of 80%.
So our role is to make sure that there is more competition, not less, and we will only act to prevent a merger if there is a determination that a merger would harm competition.
Okay, so let me ask, so in other words, we have 4 major airlines representing 80% of the traffic. And you're saying another competition would be what? Would not be competition? I'm trying to understand the math, because
think of it in terms of
add another carrier, national carrier.
You're taking
give more competition to the 4 that right now.
My point is, taking 2 airlines and turning them into 1 could mean less competition.
Okay. Since you pose a new national airlines competitor, what is your department doing to remove barriers to entree and enable smaller carriers without the scale of the 4 big legacy airlines to effectively compete in the key markets, U.S. markets?
Well, as you mentioned, there are a lot of barriers to entry in aviation, the economies of scale, loyalty programs, other things that mean that it doesn't function the way a lot of competitive markets do. That's exactly why we think it's so important to exercise our authority under the law to make sure that there is more competition and not less.
What are you doing for the smaller? We're talking about the smaller. How can they compete with the policies you're now looking at? How will you allow them to compete in this market in which 4 right now control it?
Well, part of what we're doing to support them is steps like this that police the trend toward consolidation, so that we don't end up with, by the end of this, we could be down to Coke and Pepsi. If all of the airlines merge, you could wind up with just 2. It's hard to picture that being a positive outcome for competition. But again, our actions on this are always going to be guided by the law and by our legal authorities. We're not asserting any novel regulatory authority. We're using to our best of our judgment, we're implementing the law as written.
Well, thank you. Let me just wrap up by saying this. If the JetBlue and Spirit merger is approved in federal court, I strongly recommend that your department acts expeditiously and consistent with long-standing antitrust precedent and approve the airline certificate transfer. Allowing the free market, that's what we're talking about. Allow the free market to decide and provide the lowest cost possible, because we add another airlines, national airlines, the prices will go down because there are other options. It makes sense to me because I've been an entrepreneur all my life. To provide the lowest cost for consumers, and please refrain from the petty protectionism to safeguard only one airline's market share. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Now I yield back the remainder of my time.
Thank you, Senator.